Hi, I'm Mark Bunker, and this is Aaron Smith-Levin. You know what that means? It's time for Dining with the SPs. This is the first time either of us have been here.
Yeah.
This is a new Mexican place.
I don't even think it's a month old. So compared to how busy the places are downtown right now, this is pretty busy.
Yeah.
For a Saturday at this time, we'll taste the food. I hope it's good.
We got some chips already. So lots of things have been going on recently. For instance, I made an appearance at the Downtown Development Board.
Hi, my name is Mark Bunker.
Yes, you did.
That was fun. I had no idea all this time that I had the ability to go and talk to a panel full of OTs and talk about anything I wanted to talk about, essentially.
Back in 2000, there was a citywide referendum when the city was planning to give away the entire downtown district to an out-of-town developer for $1 a year for 99 years. And before the citizens voted on that, the St. Pete Times at that point ran an article that included a poll that was conducted that showed that 66% of the people who responded to the poll thought that redeveloping downtown would only benefit Scientology. And 100% of the people who were polled said even if the downtown was redeveloped, they still wouldn't come downtown. And the reason was the presence of Scientology. Now we have a situation where the board is primarily made up of Scientologists. We've got Paris Morphopoulos, who's the president of the board, right? Stu Sowerman, is that correct?
You pronounce it not Rain Man, but Showerman.
Showerman, okay, thank you, Stu. Ray Casano and Tom Wright.
I'm not a Scientologist.
You're not?
No.
Well, I've got you in the service completions here, Tom. Must be another Tom.
There is another
Right.
Tom Wright, yes.
Okay, I
I'm
apologize,
Thomas
Tom.
Wright.
My argument was people don't want to come down because of Scientology.
Right.
And are the people that are going to do something about this Scientologists? Are they the best people to put on this problem?
Exactly. Of course they're not. And I would love
The
to.
way this is swimming, it's got like a lake of sauce around it.
But is it good?
Oh, it's very good.
So, I would have loved to know back then when the Church of Scientology was trying to get the city to back out of a contractual agreement to buy that land in downtown Clearwater from the Clearwater Aquarium.
Right.
It seems to me like that would have been right up the alley of this development board. And yet the board is stacked with Scientologists
Yeah.
who would have been forbidden from voting against the church on that issue.
Right.
And I didn't really understand all of the boards and the committees and the councils in this city back then well enough to even have an interest at that level back then.
Yeah.
But now I would be fascinated to know what was happening, what conversations were happening on that board
Exactly.
at that time about that issue. So you got up, you spoke for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, if that was a city council meeting, nobody would have had dared to interrupt you and tell you that you were off topic. And I noticed that they did.
We're straying way off the topic. Please bring your remarks to a close.
Were they allowed to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, they have done that to me at the city council meetings as well. What happens at the beginning of the meetings, people are given a chance to come up and talk for 3 minutes on any subject.
Okay.
So, you know, I could go up there and sing If I Were a Rich Man from Fiddler on the Roof.
I were a wealthy man.
But in this case, I was talking specifically about the slate of candidates that they were going to approve
Okay.
to send out to get their names put on the ballot.
Okay, so you were
So it
speaking
had
to
to
the
be
agenda
targeted
item.
to that agenda.
Okay.
Yeah. And I felt generally it was about the slate of candidates, even though, of course, they tried to stop the discussion.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Were there Scientologists on that list of proposed candidates who would be new members to the board?
I think so. There were at least 2.
Of the 5 candidates, 3 of them are Scientologists, including Mr. Mafopoulos, Shahab Imrani, and Keenan Kinsel, all Scientologists.
I thought you did an amazing job, and I would have loved to see a split screen of what the council people, what their faces were looking like as you were speaking.
I'm going to say,
yeah,
they were actually more attentive and less upset than I usually see from the mayor and the other council members
Right.
when I speak about Scientology at one of the regular city meetings. The mayor is just glaring at me the entire time.
Did you get the impression that they weren't used to people showing up to their meetings wanting to speak?
Nobody seems to show up at those meetings. There were, at the most, I think 4 of us there. Having Paris there gave me a chance to mention that I had met him before.
Until you lose some weight, get the hell away from me. You know? Are you on your 50 Twinkie a day habit now, or what? If you can't control your eating habits, Mark, what about your sexual habits? Where do they run to? Small children? Huh? Animals? What is it, small barnyard animals? What does it for you? Little boys?
It was just one example of bull baiting that I encountered here in the LMT years,
Right.
2000, 2001. Not long after Scientologists were acting insane in front of my camera, both in LA and here in Clearwater,
Yeah.
they kind of got the feeling that, we look stupid when we do this bull baiting. And they kind of shut up after that, at least in front of my camera. Jeff Jacobson, by the way, found a piece of footage from the same period that he just emailed me today.
Jeff, is that why you're so good with the camera? You used to taking a bunch of naked kids?
Hello?
Yep.
Are you accusing me of that? No, not at all.
Let's go.
Are you accusing me of that? I'm just asking.
These are things that Scientologists say to push your button, to make you upset, to make you react. And I happen to be just a natural OT. You can't push my buttons. I'm fine. Say what you want to me. I listen to it, and all I hear is L. Ron Hubbard, because these people are told Bunker is a criminal. He's an SP. You just have to dig up his crimes, and if you can't find him, you manufacture them. But attack, always attack, never defend. So I'm hearing Hubbard speaking to me when all these Scientologists say these horrible things. That doesn't forgive them for what they say,
Right.
but it doesn't get me upset.
Yeah. So, what was the title of your video? Something Downtown Development Board.
It's the Mark Bunker at the Downtown Development Board, perhaps?
Sounds about right. And the title of my video was Paris Morphopoulos asks Mark Bunker about having sex with children and animals. That was the title of my video.
That's a catchier title. You're going to get more clicks with that than Mark Bunker at the Downtown Development Board.
And so, when I said earlier I would have loved to see their faces, in the video you uploaded, you say the only member of this board that I've had prior experience with is Paris Morphopoulos, and in your video you edit to the previous footage.
Right. But
But in the meeting, did you actually articulate what your prior experience with him was?
no.
Okay. But then in the meeting, you did start talking about the fact that Paris basically sort of kicked you out of his store
Yeah.
or said you're not welcome in his store. Was there any reaction to these at all? Or was it just a quick moment
Yeah, they did.
and it passed? Okay.
Yeah.
What
You know-
did you think about Ray Casano jumping in saying that most Scientologists are Christians?
Well, I am a Scientologist.
Yes,
I'm also a Christian. Most Scientologists are Christians.
right?
I'd like that.
Did anybody laugh?
Well, there wasn't anybody there to laugh. I mean, I can hear people laughing when they watch it online. I mean, people's jaws are dropping.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that was my moment to argue with them about that. In fact, it may be a topic that comes up at a future board meeting. Since it's not on the agenda, I should be able to address it. And yeah, the thing is that Scientologists always say, Scientology is completely compatible with all other religions, meaning that Scientology is compatible with your wallets, no matter what religion you are. But I didn't want to go into religious beliefs here at the, I just wanted to get my basic little point across, which I think was accomplished.
Yeah.
But what's amazing to me is even the Scientology spokespeople will go on TV and say, yeah, it's completely compatible. But for the IRS agreement, you're supposed to say in writing that people are expected to discard other practices and follow Scientology's teachings. And in fact, they have that in writing.
In writing.
They don't say, we force them to abandon other religions.
It says they're
or
expected
it's not
to.
part of their,
Yeah.
But as you go up the bridge, you are expected to only practice Scientology.
That's right.
They're not going to tell you that.
In fact, that was a sticking point. Like the IRS came back to Scientology and said, hey, how can you be saying that you can be any other religion and also be a Scientologist, and yet you want us to say that you are a religion? And that's when Scientology replied with what you're talking about, saying, no, we fully, Scientologists are fully expected to only be Scientologists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the paper to the IRS, but
Yes.
everywhere else, you can be Christian, you can be Jewish, doesn't matter.
That's right.
Come on in, read a book.
I think if the IRS ever takes away Scientology's tax-exempt status, a part of me thinks it would be less for actual violations and more for the fraudulent nature of the original submission. I'm just guessing. They could make a case for that the information presented to the IRS was fraudulent to begin with, as opposed to having to make a case for why they've deserved to lose it.
Yeah.
They could make a case for both, but the amount of fraudulent information that was in that submission is, if anyone had the appetite to make a career out of it.
Well, we get that legal team now that is looking for people who have been abused or defrauded by Scientology.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably bring enough evidence forward.
That's right.
Of how Scientology is systematically abusing that agreement while they're abusing people. I mean, we're seeing stories about seniors who get involved with registrars who come to their condo and say, you really need to go up the bridge. I know you're 80, but we need to get you back onto the bridge and go in OT. And they get the approval for Scientology to call up credit card companies and apply.
Yeah.
And then lie about the income of these people.
Yeah.
And then instantly, as soon as they get like $150,000 worth of available credit on multiple cards, they instantly run it in through to pay Scientology.
Yeah.
This is fraud. It's elder abuse. And these cases are starting to be won. And
Absolutely.
that type of on-the-record win, I think is going to be the most important thing to convince the IRS that something should be done about this.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, there was one part of the series finale of the Scientology in the Aftermath show. So that was a couple weeks ago now, I think. There was one part where Leah and Mike are asking this retired FBI agent who's on the show. I want to say his name's Jim Ellis, but I could be getting that wrong. And they're basically asking him, what's the deal? Why aren't these criminal prosecutions happening? Why isn't the Department of Justice doing something? And the FBI agent said something that to me I thought made perfect sense, but I'd love to get feedback from other people in the comment section who have more experience with this than either of us. He said, in cases like this, it honestly does help the Department of Justice to have civil lawsuits move forward, have the depositions occur, have the discovery occur, have a it's not a prosecution, have a win
Right.
on the books, that can really help the Department of Justice get some of the information it just can't get otherwise. And actually, I might be incorrectly paraphrasing him, because the Department of Justice can get whatever information they want. When he said that, I thought that made perfect sense. But I've seen so many other people commenting on Facebook and elsewhere like, no, that's kind of bullshit. The Department of Justice never needs civil cases to move forward first. What do you think about that?
This is a unique situation. I mean, they brought the IRS to its knees. Nobody in the government wants to do anything about this. So we need to offer as much proof up front as possible. Because you know this to be the case. The FBI at one point was planning to raid the gold base and free up Rinder and everybody else who was stuck in the hole. And they were told, listen, if you do that, the people who are being held there on the RPF, they're just going to say, we want to be here. This is our religion, no matter how abused they've been.
Right.
How many years they've been sleeping under a desk and be fed rice and beans.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck. But if you've got cases that have been proven, I think that's a leg up, and that's what we need. In fact, back in the LMT days, Stacy Brooks, who was our president, had been a long-time Scientologist and the first editor of Freedom Magazine for Scientology.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She decided that one of the big problems was when Scientology complains about us, they will manufacture evidence against us and provide that to the government. Like they created, back then they had created one of these smear websites that was from Scientology without putting their name on it, but it was listing all these hate groups, like the KKK and this group and that group and the LMT, and then they print out that website that shows us buried in with all these hate groups. Like when we got kicked out of Daniela's Kitchen, Jeff Jacobson and I ate there, and they told us you can't come back again. And we filed a little.
Carolyn's Kitchen?
It was Daniela's Kitchen, which is not there anymore.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Right across the street from where the LMT was.
Oh, okay.
Run by Scientologists. And Jeff and I, we didn't cause a disturbance. We didn't cause any trouble. We just ate our meal and left. But as we were leaving, apparently, I guess it was the boyfriend of the owner or manager, stopped us and said, all right, you guys, you didn't give us any trouble, but you're not welcome here. So we weren't allowed to go back. And I don't know, it seems silly to me. But we thought with this and the one-stop shop, Paris's store, refusing us business, we ought to just file a complaint about this. And so to respond to that, Scientology put in this fake website that they themselves created as proof that we're a hate group.
Wow.
And there's no repercussions to that.
Right.
And nobody cares. Nobody cares that they're always manufacturing evidence.
Right.
But at that point, Stacy said, the problem is Scientology complains about us and makes a police report every time we do a protest. We don't do that. Scientologists don't file complaints. So that's what we need to start doing. So we started a project to go around and talk to former members, do a survey, see what issues they actually confronted when they were in Scientology, what abuses they were subject to, what fraud happened, and then help them write out complaints to send to the proper agencies so that when somebody did complain about Scientology, there would be a folder full of complaints from people saying, oh yeah, I see this is the first time we run across this.
Right.
And that's essentially similar to what this law firm is doing now on a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
And it's important to have these things on the record, since Scientologists themselves are told, never go to the police, never report anything, you only come to us if you have a problem.
Yeah. And if somebody Googles Scientology abuse lawsuit, they will find the website that the law firm has put up to collect information of anyone who wants to participate.
I have a feeling in the next 6 months, once we launch the campaign, that I'll probably be mentioning that website from time to time.
Yeah.
Because can I get rid of the tax exempt status? No, but we can. And the first step is, if you've been abused, contact these attorneys.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be so important.
Yeah. I mean, these attorneys, the legal team contains people who, in former roles as prosecutors and whatnot, were involved in taking down Bill Cosby, involved in winning cases against the Catholic Church. And I'm sorry, but if you've got enough balls and enough conviction to go after the Catholic Church, Scientology ain't nothing. You posted another video on your channel this week, and it was you speaking in front of the city council.
Yes.
And you said some amazing things. And another one of these things where I go, oh, what a great tagline. You said, if Clearwater isn't for sale, it's only because Scientology isn't ready to sell. Right? That was well, that's not a tagline for a campaign, but it's a great observation. And you got it sounded like it could have been a standing ovation, but I doubt they stood.
They weren't standing, but it was a nice round of applause.
An incredible round of applause.
When I think of Clearwater, I think of Gabe Casares, the courageous former mayor who stood up to Scientology and was attacked viciously. And when Scientology's covert operations against Gabe were discovered in FBI raids, Gabe Casares sued Scientology, only to discover that the lawyer he hired was himself a Scientologist that the cult had brought in expressly to befriend Gabe at his country club and get him to hire him so he can botch Gabe's case. That lawyer was disbarred for his actions. As you talk about downtown redevelopment, I suggest that you should put up a statue to Gabe Casares, and I would put it right in front of the old Clearwater Bank building, because that's where they planned and executed the operations against Gabe, and that's where they still do their dirty work. I would put it on that statue, Gabe Casares, American hero. And underneath that, his famous quote, "Sparkling Clearwater is not for sale at any price." Maybe that will begin to balance out the gigantic Scientology cross that will soon loom over the entire downtown. If Clearwater is not for sale today, it's only because Scientology is not ready to sell. Thank you.
It was the best reception I've ever gotten there. Not from the council, of course, because they didn't want to hear it, but the people of Clearwater understood. And
it was incredible.
And when you have these 3-minute talks from whoever gets up to make an address, usually people are zoning out during them.
Oh, yeah.
But this one caught people's attention, and I think justifiably so.
So what year would you say that speech was?
That was either 2000 or 2001.
Okay.
That was during the LMT years.
And the city council hall was packed.
Yes.
And so everyone in that hall who applauded loudly for what you had to say, they weren't even people who showed up to hear what you had to say.
Right.
Those were just community members who showed up for a city council meeting.
Yeah, but it can go the other way too, though. One thing that happens at these meetings is usually at the beginning of the meeting, before the public comment section, they'll bring up like a Boy Scout troop or volunteers from some place. And if it's kids, you got all the family members in the audience watching the kids get the little recommendation and get their pictures taken with the mayor and the council. And then as soon as that presentation is over, all of those folks pile out, because they're not going to sit around and listen to a boring meeting with all the kids there. And that's understandable. That happens at the beginning of every meeting.
Yep.
And there was a time when I got up to start my speech, and you can see everybody filing out from that. And so there are people online who go, "Oh, look at Bunker's clearing the room." So sometimes you get applause. Sometimes you see people storming out of the place, whether you are responsible or not. Things happen.
That's funny.
But it is nice to to give a message you believe in
Yeah.
and then have people applaud.
And I hope everyone goes and checks out that video, because as soon as I saw that video, I was like, this is the video that's going to get Mark Bunker elected. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating that that's the thought I had. Because the fact that you stood up there and said that to the council, and the fact that the entire room full of citizens applauded and cheered, just really struck me. And then another guy stood up right after you and just introduced himself as an ordained minister. What he didn't bother to say is that he was an ordained Scientology minister. He made it. What is it with Scientologists not wanting to be honest about the fact that they're Scientologists?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that you should do. You know, Lauren could have gotten up there and said, I'm a Scientologist, and let me say why I'm offended by what he just said. But to pretend not to be a Scientologist, instead, I'm an ordained minister, and this is nothing but bigotry, and they're going to come after the Jews next, and they're going to throw everybody, they're going to throw all the Christians in ovens, it's going to be horrible. You know,
Did you notice? He kept saying religious prosecution.
Oh, I noticed.
Instead of persecution.
Yeah. Over and over and over.
Over and over and over. And Scientologists can never neglect an opportunity to compare themselves to the Jews being persecuted in Germany. It's such a bad look. And at least in that video, they tried to hide behind the Christians as well. Yeah. Anyway, I actually should look up who that guy is if he still lives here, because I don't even recognize that guy.
Unfortunately, he died a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
He was supposedly a really great guy. He was an arborist and really cared about trees and saved a tree that was going to be killed and moved. I guess it was a tree that was where the superpower building.
Oh, so he was involved in that. They were talking about some record of saving that old tree.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy who did it. But everybody who knew him said he was a great guy.
But how did he know you were going to be speaking that night, or did he just happen to be there?
He just happened to be there.
Oh wow, he was really did it. He was pretty well presented for just being off the cuff.
Yeah. Well, I think they were sending people to the meetings back then just to make sure one of us wasn't speaking, so they could counter it. I mean, I do have tape of one of the first times we spoke. Bob Minton was getting up and a few other LMT members. And Al Butner, who was then Scientology PR, was brought down from Toronto to handle the LMT being on Clearwater. And I have footage of him on the sidelines bringing up the Scientologists, lining them up and telling them what to talk about. So this was all orchestrated.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fine use of PR.
Yeah. Let me tell you another more recent story of just a stupid PR blunder that these guys do. So my neighborhood association is the Skycrest neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we have monthly meetings, and I'm one of the directors. And there's 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 6 OT7s and 8s that come to our meeting. And for a while, even Sea Org members from Flag were coming to the meeting, even though they're not. The Hacienda Gardens is not in the Skycrest neighborhood. And so one of the OT8s, his name's Ed Clark, one of the OT8s who comes to the meeting every month, he approached one of the directors and said, hey, we would love to host the Skycrest neighborhood meeting at the new community center that Scientology opened up on the corner. You know where the old law office is?
Right.
It's called like Clearwater Community Volunteers. Mm-hmm. We'd love to host the meeting. It's a great premises, and then he goes, not everyone in the community would be welcome though. And he got shut down so quickly, and because the person that he spoke to was like, then, because she knew who he was talking about. Right. She's like, then why would you offer? Why would you offer? Now again, it was just a private conversation. Why? It was just
why?
But come on, think it through. You just made yourself and your ridiculous church looks stupid in the eyes of someone you actually respect. Not me, the person he spoke to.
Yeah.
He's like, oh
But
yeah.
the key thing would be to tempt them enough that they would say, well, we don't need Aaron on the board.
True.
That's what they're always there, because they think this will be an offer that they can't refuse.
Right.
And these community groups that do hold functions
Yeah.
at the Fort Harrison, I mean, they get a sweet deal. I mean, all expenses are paid. Like the Garden Club just had a meeting there a few weeks ago.
Yeah, the Clearwater Community Gardens.
Yeah. And you've got this beautiful meeting area.
It's in the Crystal Ballroom. It's gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah.
And they provide gourmet meals for free to everyone who attends. They want to get you there so they can have your picture taken with you and put it as a win up in their magazines and publications and say, see how important we are to the community?
Yeah.
So
And yet-
it's kind of hard to say no when you're being offered all of this and you don't know all the truth about Scientology, and you may go, well, I mean, yeah, sounds like a nice place to go.
And I'm going to have a conversation with Howard. Howard's the president of the Clearwater Community Gardens. And I think this is a conversation that should be had with all of these locally based nonprofits that use the Fort Harrison for their fundraisers is, wait a second, but you have members of your own organization who wouldn't even be welcome in that building. Why in the world would you allow a fundraiser for your organization to be hosted in a building that wouldn't even allow all of your members to show up? I mean, it's silly, even though we understand why it happens. Yeah.
You know, they're turning a blind eye to it, but it annoys me that politicians and city officials will go and attend these things and have their picture taken and be used, like the chief of police.
Yeah.
Having his picture, handing out awards or whatever, and it's like, really? You shouldn't be legitimizing this.
Right.
I know you're not going to stop them from doing any of these abuses, but don't let them use you to make them look responsible or like good citizens, because they're not.
Right. So, you know, on all this downtown development board stuff, the church is like, this is like T-ball for them. They're just going to tee it up and go, look, you're being bigoted against Scientologists, you're persecuting Scientologists. And that's where it's so important to continue to reiterate that it's not about them believing in Scientology. It's about the Church of Scientology it's about the Church of Scientology being completely against the development and revitalization of downtown Clearwater. And you have the fact that this organization has leverage over its members, who as individuals may be genuine and sincere and good-hearted people, but their decisions are not their own. And that is the problem. It's not what they believe in. It's that they belong to an organization that has the ultimate leverage over them. And it's weird because it's sort of a slippery slope. It's kind of a fine line, I should say, of it comes down to the behavior, not the beliefs. That's why in a later video we should do some homework and discuss what role the Downtown Development Board had in that vote about the aquarium property. We should probably dig into that some more.
Yeah. And these underhanded shenanigans, which you were talking about before, you always love hearing about what they're doing to you. I love hearing about what Scientology is trying to do for this campaign, to try to stop this campaign. We heard already that Pat Haney was calling around immediately as soon as I announced I was going to run, saying we can't let him run.
Right.
And now I've heard from other candidates, at least one, who says that somebody has approached and said, I got a solid block of 11,000 votes for you, and all the money you need to run the campaign, you just have to go for the seat we want you to go for.
Right.
And, you know, take out Mark Bunker. I'm sure they're saying that to every candidate they can to find the right guy to go up against me.
Sure. And they're threatening to run their own candidate, but we haven't heard anything about that yet. We sure wish they would run one.
It would be nice.
Yes.
So yeah, that's one of the fun things about having spoken at this downtown development board, because normally they wouldn't talk to me. They're not going to do a debate with me. They're not going to do anything. But here, for 3 minutes, I could stand up and just say, "Hi, here's what I think." And they couldn't really stop me, or they could say, "Okay, you're off topic." And when I was, it had to come to an end.
You're practicing reverse disconnection.
Yes.
You're handling it with communication.
Yeah,
You should get up there. You should be like, "I'm here because communication is the universal solvent."
Actually, I used that quote when I wrote to David Miscavige asking for an interview for my documentary. As L. Ron Hubbard said, communication is a universal solvent. So sit down with me and let's
Let's solve
chat.
this.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everyone that we're still looking for campaign manager?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
let me explain it this way, though.
Yeah.
The only position a campaign must have in order to move forward legally is treasurer, and we have that already.
Yeah.
And we have enough people who are willing to take care of their own little part of the campaign that we can move forward without a campaign manager. But it sure would be easier to have one, and it is a paid position. And what are your thoughts? Does it have to be somebody who lives here in Clearwater?
No, doesn't have to be.
Does it have to be someone who can it be someone in another state who just knows what they're doing and can help coordinate?
Yeah.
It can be, right?
Sure. There's
Yeah.
a lot of this can be done virtually. There's a lot of tactics and scheduling and things like that to be done. And we have people that can definitely work on a lot of those things that a manager would do. But to have somebody with experience
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis of dealing with a campaign, I think
Yeah.
that would be great to have.
Yeah. So even if they're out of state, and I asked that because I actually haven't been considering that it could be somebody from out of state, and only today did it start to occur to me that maybe it could be.
Yeah.
And I think if we make that clear, we might get more interest.
The big problem is Scientology. You got to have somebody who's willing to take them on.
Yeah.
That's not worried about their next client.
Yeah.
Is this going to destroy my reputation?
Yeah.
I don't think it has to.
Yeah, that is a problem with local, actual political operatives,
Right.
Using that word not negatively, but people who have to worry about, well, what am I going to be doing in 12 months? What am I going to be doing in 2 years? Do I really want to be on the radar as the one who helped that anti-Scientology guy? Not a lot of local people are interested in that, even if they are the kind of people who would vote for Mark. Even if they're the kind of people who would meet privately with Mark and say, love what you're doing. Not necessarily the kind of people who want to officially jump on board.
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm trying to show by the run is you don't have to be so afraid.
Exactly.
Scientology has purposely built up this reputation as a not turn the other cheek organization, to put it mildly, as they would put it. But they want to be seen as ruthless and dangerous and don't mess with us.
Yep.
Listen, I've been doing this for 20 years. You've been speaking out and helping people for a number of years now. We're still here.
We're still here.
And, I think it's important to the people of Clearwater to say, you don't have to be afraid.
Right. It's kind of a bit of an echo chamber of sorts where the church really does want to capitalize off of that reputation of being this ruthless organization, and the media helps them because headlines like that sell. The media wants to be able to write articles like that, but the truth is, Scientology has not sued a media organization in over 20 years. The last person they did sue was Debbie Cook. She countersued. They ended up paying her millions of dollars after a day or two of devastating testimony. Have they actually sued? They didn't even sue Marty Rathbun.
Yeah. Well,
They didn't sue him. His wife sued them.
right.
And they haven't sued Mike, they haven't sued Leah, they haven't sued A&E, they haven't sued IPC, which was the production company that made the show. And anyway, my point was this echo chamber where the media likes to portray Scientology as something you should be terrified of,
Yeah.
and Scientology loves being portrayed as something you should be terrified of.
And they still like to jab it to you if you stand up and speak. They'll
Yeah.
still try to do like a noisy investigation.
Yeah, I mean, they'll
to
do
creep
things.
you out.
Yeah,
But you know, you can weather it.
yeah. It's whether you take it seriously or not. It's whether you know that they're only doing it to get to you. And maybe I tend to look at it a little bit too much only through my own lens. Whenever I hear things that they're doing sort of behind the scenes to screw with me, it has the opposite effect as what they're hoping. I love when I hear that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
I go, yes, one more opportunity to show how absurd this organization is.
Yeah.
But if you don't know better, it's very easy to actually just be legitimately afraid.
Sure.
And the truth is, a lot of these business owners in downtown Clearwater, they are genuinely concerned that if they get on Scientology's radar, Scientology will do something to hurt their income, hurt their business, and it's really hard to convince somebody they shouldn't be concerned.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it actually feels like the wrong thing to do to tell someone they shouldn't be concerned.
The only thing that we can do really is lead by example.
Exactly.
Say we're still standing,
Exactly. Yeah.
and that will backfire enormously if I'm found dead in a ditch somewhere in the next 6 months. In that case, be very afraid.
So
I think we're fine.
there's two things I didn't want to forget to mention. When you spoke in front of the Downtown Development Board, you said something that just struck me as like the perfect slogan or tagline. If Scientology is the problem, are Scientologists the answer? I mean, as soon as you said that, I was like, that's awesome. And what was the other thing you mentioned earlier? When Mike Rinder wrote a blog post about your campaign, the title of it had something to do with the Golden Age of Clearwater.
Yeah.
And Golden Age of Clearwater would also be a great sort of slogan for your campaign.
Yeah, I think that may wind up being our campaign slogan. The
Right.
Golden Age of Clearwater. Vote for Mark Bunker.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a great place. We have to recommend this again.
Yeah, I did not expect it to be this good. It was fantastic.
You're going to see us chatting with you and letting you know how everything's going with the campaign. And we're going to have a lot of fun. Bye.
Bye, guys.